John, if you could, we had mentioned earlier about the idea that Pennsylvania is in fact one of the states that did not decide not to set up the government exchanges. So
That's right.
Where does that put Pennsylvania?
Well, it puts them in good company because more than half the states went the same way as Pennsylvania. New Jersey is another one. Maryland does have a state exchange, right? So in the local area, there are all different kinds of options. And all that means is that the federal government is operating the exchanges rather than the state, doing some of the administrative stuff, really all the administrative stuff. If I were a state governor, I would want my state to be more hands-on. I think I could be more responsive to my citizens. But keep in mind, there's huge political pressure in states that are, shall we say, not pro-Obama, to not do anything that looks like it's supporting the Affordable Care Act. And just to make one more point about this, from a financial point of view, it makes no sense for a state not to accept the Medicaid expansion. It's a huge amount of money to the states. Even when it phases down completely, it'll still be a 90% federal contribution, only a 10% state contribution, okay? Within particular states, even conservative states, right, there are hospitals and there are doctors lobbying for the states to accept the expansion. Why? Because without it, they have to eat the cost of the uninsured. So it's purely political not to accept the expansion. And this is some of the stuff we're dealing with Obamacare.
If we finally, on healthcare, if we didn't have enough electricity running through this issue in the nation this week, thanks to another legal challenge, we added one more wrinkle to it. And I guess if you were going to try to pinpoint an area that if you wanted to add to healthcare, you would get into contraception, religion, and church and state. And the Supreme Court now is going to take up the issue, John, of whether corporations have religious rights and thus the right to restrict contraception coverage under the Affordable Care Act for their employees. And again, the court seems to be split.
The court is split, and court watchers think that once again it's in Justice Kennedy's hands, although in the Sebelius case it was Justice Roberts who was the swing vote, but in most cases it's Justice Kennedy who's kind of the pivot point, and in this case he gave support to both sides. And the question is whether a privately held company, right, can basically say to its employees, we don't want to pay for the insurance or for contraceptive coverage that you would otherwise be entitled to as an essential health benefit under the Affordable Care Act. And the Supreme Court has to decide whether, first of all, a corporation is sufficiently a person that it can assert this kind of religious freedom, and then secondly, how much of a burden of religion or a burden on religion is this mandate. And I think we'll know more in June.
Yeah. Wrap up in terms of the Affordable Care Act. Where do you think we wind up going from here?
Well, I think one interesting thing that I read was that in a paradoxical way, a lot of the most serious objections to the act will probably fade once Obama is out of office, even if his successor is another Democrat, but particularly if it's a Republican, because a lot of this is tied up, even the fact that it's called Obamacare, right? When you have legislation, it's not the FDR Act, it's Social Security, right? So this is a very unusual thing to do, and a lot of this is kind of flashpoint anger against Obama. So I think once he's gone, you will find states accepting the Medicaid expansion because it makes sense. You will have people trying to figure out, right, how to get all those uninsured people insured. And I think there's no going back at this point. I mean, there'll be tweaks, there'll be amendments, but I think once people start to see that this really has an effect on their lives, that they can get coverage, that they can move from job to job without being worried about it, I think you're going to see kind of an inevitable push toward acceleration, but I think that will take a good 5 to 10 years, but that's just a guess.
John, thank you very much. Great discussion. Let's turn to Dr. Wes Leckrone and his class, Interest Groups in American Politics. Of course, he offers here at Widener along with Angie Corbo, and they're gearing up for an event that's held out in Harrisburg called Student Lobby Day. Wes, give us a feel for what's going to happen there.
Sure. So Widener's part of the Association of Independent Colleges and Universities of Pennsylvania, which luckily the acronym is ACUP, which makes it a little bit easier to say. And there are about 84, 85 different private schools around the state, including Newman, Rosemont, some other schools in the area. And basically we'll all gather next Tuesday in Harrisburg, have a nice little breakfast with some state legislators, and then go out and hit on probably about 15 different state legislators. We're going to meet with them. We've got a whole packet of information that we're going to give out to them and try to do a little one-on-one lobbying, or advocacy, sorry.
And what specific issue are you looking to hammer away at?
Well, one of the things that we're most interested in, about $36 million was cut from Pennsylvania Higher Education Association's budget a couple years ago. And what we'd like the government basically do in Pennsylvania is to reinstate that $36 million in the form of a middle income debt relief grant. Middle income students whose parents make between about $80,000 and $110,000 a year have the highest amount of debt when they get out of college. Because if you make more than $110,000, you got enough money to be able to pay out of pocket. You're less than $80,000, you're more likely to get Pell Grants and other things. So it's the middle class that kind of gets squeezed. So we're pushing for that.
I tell people in the office and this all the time, and people look at me like I have about 15 heads, but one of the things when I went through that process with my kids in college, one of the most disheartening things that I discovered was that I had been told the wrong thing for years and years and years, and that is no one bothered to tell me that you get penalized for saving money for college.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just a really, really difficult issue. But some of the students in Dr. LaCrone's class are going to be taking part in Lobby Day out there in Harrisburg, students. So what I'd like them to do is please, we'll start in the front, introduce yourself and what you'd like to see accomplished on Student Lobby Day in Harrisburg.
My name is Rosemary Walker, and I am the junior communications major for PR and advertising. And on April, at our lobbying day, I hope to see the grant be pushed to the next step so it can help the middle income students like myself. Because as a junior right now, I'm really not as concerned as I should be, but I know after college it will completely set in, and then I'll be even more stressed out than I already am.
You got to pay them back, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not free.
Yes.
Next, right there, next door there.
My name's Sarah. I am a political science international relations major. I'm a freshman here. And I really hope that during our lobby day we advocate properly so that way we can affect the lives of about 60,000 students applying for grants. With the money put back in the system, 60,000 more students will be able to accept these grants, and then they'll be able to shop around for which college they'd like to attend. So that way the money is not specified to a state school or a private school, and they can really make the decision for themselves.
All right, in the back, we'll start out on the far end.
All right, I'm Alex. I'm a junior communications studies student. I'm kind of interested, because this is all kind of new to me, not being a political science major, so I'm kind of interested to see what kind of impact the students can actually make, because we're so used to kind of getting talked at, you know, being told how it is. It's kind of interested that we get the chance to actually go to Harrisburg and kind of lobby for ourselves and kind of our interests. So.
I'm Emily. I'm also a political science major. I'm a junior, and I'm really interested in going. I've never actually been really involved. I'm a political science major. I actually transferred here, so this is something that's really great for me. I've never actually been hands-on with politics, though, and as this personally affects me and my family, we fall square right in that bracket. And I have a younger brother, and you know, graduating college, I'm going to have to decide whether taking time off or going straight into grad school with no time, because those college loans are going to hit me right after I graduate. So it'll be really interesting to see how I can personally make a change for my own future.
All right.
I'm Andrea Stickley. I'm a senior political science student, and I've actually been a part of this whole process since it was started about 2 years ago. And I went last year to Harrisburg to lobby for ACUP when this whole thing sort of started with the Middle Income Debt Relief Act. And you know, last year I saw what it was like to talk to representatives and senators and how they were sort of a little weary about a bunch of college students coming in thinking, you know, they know it all and everything like that. But when we were able to present them with facts and reliable statistics, it was interesting to see how much they were kind of accepting of what we had to say. And so I'm really hoping, because we were there last year and we sort of have this brand name behind us of CSC Cube, that they recognize us again this year because we're going there with that same brand and we're, you know, advocating for the same issue, that they're going to be like, I remember you, you guys are still doing great things and we're going to back you on it.